Man, busy. The plan is to get busy on Wago, make progress on the Integra, and at least make it look like I'm getting stuff done. That's all anyone ever does, right?
And now, you're watching the 90s nostalgia that's wide rear ends that say juicy across the channel of YouTube. Welcome to BoostedBoiz.
Hey, so what's happening? Thank you so much for joining me on yet another video. So like I mentioned, we got Wago here, brand new fender. Well, not brand new fender, new to us. So that's taken care of, that's looking really good. Now what I've been doing since the last video is just a bunch of body work, trying to get this car straightened out, because what I want to show you guys sooner than later is the entire paint job. I don't want to spend too much time just going over body work day after day after day, even though that's what I'm doing. I know you don't want to see that. So a bunch of this got blocked out. Good amount of work in here. This door, we actually got a replacement door that Kyle's gonna bring me later on in the week, so that's really good. That's a little bit more body filler than what I would like, but keep in mind, all that filler is really thin. I went ahead and I pulled the body out just a little bit where the dents were with a dent puller, so it is a bunch, but it's thin, so I'm okay with that. Anywhere that there's body filler or bare metal, I'm gonna have to go back with primer. So Wago, that's what we got going on. That's what I'm gonna spend a lot of time doing. And then we also got stuff happening on Project Pepto over here. We got the turbo manifold back in, engine bay's looking really good. We gotta get the axles thrown in, intercooler back on, tightened up. We just gotta tidy up things over there, hopefully get a start up soon. And let's just get into it. Now this is the same process for the entire car. I just decided that I wanted to show you for this one area. So after I went ahead, got my primer on, the primer has dried. Now I'm going to go ahead and use a powdered guide coat. And this guide coat, this is from Eagle Abrasives. All my sandpaper, everything that I use in my entire shop, Eagle Abrasives is the best way to do it, the only way to do it. And anything that you need from them, just go ahead and look it up, Eagle Abrasives. So I got my guide coat, just nice little circles, work it in. Now this guide coat is going to get in all those little tiny scratches from the 220 or 180, whatever I was using to work that down. Also any little pinholes. And once we go ahead and block it, I have 320 on the block. If I know I got to do a lot more sanding, a lot more refining, I'll go ahead and step it down to a 220. You can really just pick and choose and use what works best for you. So right now, just because today it's a Saturday, using a 320 on a Sunday, might use a 220. So let's go ahead, start blocking it out. And you can see pretty quickly all the areas that you still need to give attention to. So anywhere that the block isn't hitting, you're still going to see that black powder, meaning that's going to be a low spot. So if you can see, I'm working right here. And this isn't even where I saw my big initial dent. Now I might have fixed that big initial dent, but this will expose even smaller dents or smaller low spots that I didn't see that we can go back to. So as you can see, this spot right here, that's still that guide coat because my block, it never touched it. So that's a low spot. It's not going to be really low, but it's just low enough to be where we might have to fill it in with a little bit of body filler. Now another way that you can check your work is by just taking some wax and grease remover, spray it on the surface. That's going to make it nice and shiny and reflective. And you're going to be able to get down and look at the car and see what you're going to see when there's clear coat on it. So I can see this area that I worked initially. I'm really happy with that. I think that looks pretty good. Now this other area, there's a slight little dent that I didn't see before. It wasn't even on my radar at all, but that guide code is gonna show you everything. So this area, that's good. New area, now that's gonna need some work. This is the process that I'm gonna use for the entire car, all the doors and everything else. So I just gotta keep going, a little bit more body filler, spread it out, block it out, guide coat, primer, and just keep working the body until you're ready for paint. All right, so speaking of body work, what we have right here is a little body work hammer. So this door, we actually got another door. So the owner of the car, Kyle, he actually dropped this off the other day to me. So it's brown and actually is, I think it matches the same color as the fender, the new fender. Doubt it was the same car, but what I want to do before we get into painting, because I'm not gonna have to paint the inside of this to make it look OEM, like we didn't just replace the door from a junkyard door, I want to make sure fitment is on the up and up. That might be a little bit excessive, but I don't care. I want to make sure it's gonna fit, and it's just 4 bolts that gotta come off. So we're gonna go ahead, take this door off. We gotta swap the door panels, but I don't want to do that until after I paint it. When I paint it, I don't have to paint the entire inside. I just have to make sure I paint the jam section and overhang or come in a little bit where the door panel goes. So when you're removing doors, you gotta do the striker itself, because that's what prevents the door from just swinging wide open. And the electrical, and then the 4 bolts that are holding on the hinges. And the striker, you just pop it out with a hammer. It's really easy to come out. You're obviously gonna wanna hit the narrow end, not this end. When you're going back in, you wanna hit that end, and that's just how a lot of the doors are. So if that wasn't on the car, it just wouldn't, it would just open, and you wouldn't feel any of those steps that it normally has. So that's gonna come out. Keep track of that. So when I'm working by myself, which I am so often, what I like to do for removing doors is I like to actually clip it back on and then go for these 4 bolts. Now the door is free and it didn't just drop like a crazy person. So now you can open it up and it's nice and easy and manageable for one person, as opposed to letting the door drop and getting all crazy. And then putting the door on, obviously the same process in reverse. And I'm doing this in real time. This is taking me 5 minutes total. It's really quick. Oh, it's good. Now there's a little bit of rust on the bottom, but that little bit of rust, and also we got to slide the entire thing forward. You can see this is extremely tight. This is a little bit loose. If you go ahead and split the difference, we'll bring this up about a 16th or an 8th, somewhere in between there. Bring it up. That'll open it up back here, close it up here, and I think that looks really good. So Waggo is definitely on the up and up, and it's starting to rain. All right, so now that the door looks good, and keep in mind, that's gonna come off again, so I'm not gonna worry about fine tuning it in. So what I actually wanna do next is I wanna turn my attention to Project Pepto. This is the car that you saw in the last video where we were just getting the engine going. I actually threw the motor in the last video, but since then we've gotten everything tidied up, and I wanna go ahead and focus on that first startup. Now it's not a first startup because there was any kind of crazy changes, but the engine was completely out and it did go back in, so there's a whole bunch of things that could have happened, could have not been plugged back in. And this is just a basic B20. It's a P8R B20 with a turbo on it. It makes about 250 horsepower. It's a fun little setup. It's pretty cool. So I guess everything looks good. Let's go ahead and try to start it up. Might take a little while, but let's see. Really good. Now there's no water in the motor just because it's that first startup vibe. I just want to let it run for just a second. I mean, there'd be no reason why I'd have to take it out because this motor was good when we pulled it. The motor's still going to be good when we put it. Nothing happened except the full painting of the bag. Give a little cold revs for you guys that like that. Yeah, I think it's good. Now I can go ahead and top off the fluids, put it back on the ground. I gotta bleed the clutch. Everything should be good, man. I'm happy with this. Now it's starting to rain, and let's see what's next. So right now we made really good headway on Wago in the last couple of days, last week and a half or so. Also good headway on the Acura Integra build. In the next video, hopefully we get some primer down, some base coat down, and we are getting the car painted. And hopefully that is wrapping it up, and that is wrapping this one up. So I know it was a little short one. Sorry about that, you guys, but I'm trying to come out with content as I'm working, and you know how the whole thing goes. So thank you so much for watching. Like this video, comment, subscribe, do all the stuff. You know what it is, YouTube. I will see you on the next one. Happy with this, happy with that. I'm out.